Hello and welcome to the third annual SexTech EU Conference 2021. I am Alexis Smiley-Smith and have the pleasure of hosting this panel. I would, of course, love to thank our partnership with Wolves Summit this year, and without our sponsors, none of this would be possible. So a big thanks to handy.com and Besharam, Play More, Shame Less. So I'm very excited about this panel tonight. It has quite the catchy and provocative title, Sex Tech, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I would like to introduce Bobbi Bidochka, and she is the co-chair of Love and Sex with Robots. And then Shakun Sethi, who is the founder of Tickle.Life.com. And tonight's format is actually just more of a fireside chat, because these ladies have a lot to say and a lot of insight into the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm going to turn it over right away and just put my listening skills on. So, ladies.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexis. Pleasure to be here and happy to have this little jam with Shakun. So yes, we have lots to say about a few things. So let's start with the good. So, good things about sex tech is that it has really advanced, I would say, the sex industry and the adult industry in really great ways. So the fact that sex toys are now digital and global with different kinds of reach. This is a really uniting type of devices. We have new platforms. We have for sex education and sexual wellness. We have that have such a far reach. Sex robots, of course, and of course there's going to be some ugly parts to that. But VR. So from what I can tell in my area in tech, sex tech has really advanced the pleasure industry.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with what Bobbi is saying, because that was what we were really discussing, and Bobbi had really relevant points. But on top of that, I really also think when we're talking about education, when we're talking about media, even which for me at least would be a part of sex tech, has also evolved. The latest example is sex education show that's live right now. And interestingly enough, gone are the days when a script was being written in a room. Now they're actually incorporating people from the sexual well-being industry. So that's pretty cool, bringing the right information to people because people are ready to take them in. And hence it is becoming really popular all around the world. So the journey is really interesting, at least from our end, the kind of inputs that we get, the kind of inquiries that we get, whether that's from investors, whether they are from people. It just shows that the world is almost ready, and now it just completely depends on us. How do we avail this opportunity? So a lot of good things are actually happening. And how Bobbi just started, the reason why we chose this topic was because we realized that there are different things that are amazing, which are good, but that's not the ultimate goal. There are things which we need to improve, and there are few things which we do not even realize, but they really, really need some work on, at least from our end, or what we understand.
Yeah, definitely.
So Bobbi.
And I think that, we have the adult industry to thank for actually advancing technology, just generally speaking, because, way back before we were very comfortable with technology, it was the early adopters of file sharing. I mean, the impetus to share explicit photos and videos. People don't realize how much that actually advanced all the technology that everybody enjoys today. And then there's also Pornhub and OnlyFans. So they've gotten a lot of media attention lately, not necessarily for good reasons, but it does show the sheer amount of people that are on these platforms and enjoying these platforms. I mean, the numbers don't lie. They're just so huge, and it's just the data we can rely on here is undeniable. And then there's, of course, I think sex tech has really pushed forward pleasure as a social good, as a value.
Yeah, absolutely. When you were talking about, all I could think about was the ethical porn site Shush, which is one of the sponsors. And I don't know if you've seen their new feature. Sorry, it's amazing. So it's just like, how do you take an opportunity, or how do you take being a situation like COVID and make something good out of it? So porn industry actually has, like, I really thank them. Like, I remember, like, right now everybody's talking about NFTs, and 3 months or 4 months back, I actually ended up finding few groups where, the adult industry itself were talking about NFTs on a clubhouse. So it's just like, they have actually really taken it in their stride, all the changes that are happening, all the technological changes that are happening. And I really, really, like, very interestingly and very excited that how they are amalgamating with the sexual well-being industry. So now there is a very small gap between whether something we will call as an adult industry, or something we will call as an wellness industry, or something which we will call as an education industry. They all have started working together, which I think is fabulous, because ultimately we just want people to exactly know what they have to do to have better sex. And that's what this new journey or new environment is creating.
But then there's the bad side. There is a bad side, right? we have some marketing issues, which I'm sure that there are others throughout the conference that will be tackling that in more detail. But I mean, it feels like we're in an echo chamber almost. Like, so yes, there's some marketing issues, and platforms and accounts are getting shut down, and from what I can tell, the platforms actually. There's some politics behind. There's some lobby groups in the US that are particularly thorn in the side on this issue. But it feels like right now we're almost preaching to the choir. Like, are we really marketing out there, or are we just marketing to ourselves right now?
I so am with you. And we did that mistake when we started, and we were so excited that, oh my God, you know what? We know people in the industry. We should just work with them. We should just see how it works. We should learn from them. It was just so exciting, which is something that everybody should do. But ultimately, what happens is you stop forgetting who are your customers. And your customers are people who do not know about sex tech, who does not know about, that there are adult specific industries. They just know a single word, which is porn. So when you forget that, and that's when the problem starts, which actually happened with us also, because we were just like, okay, we are working with them, but where is the traffic? Where are the customers? Like, what's up? And what was up was, we were also in the echo chamber. And when, like, Bobbi and I, we were discussing, we really, like, realized that this really makes sense. And there were no, like, confusion or any other opinion. We are in echo chambers. We just expect people to understand. Like, my first journey was, I went to a platform. I'm not going to name. It's a BDSM platform. It's pretty famous, and that was my first, foray into a platform. And I got super scared, and I left. And I've still not managed to go back, even though I run a sex tech company. And the thing was, because I was an inquisitive person who just wanted to experiment, or just to see, or just to learn. But the impression that I got was, oh my God, I do not know anything. So the day, and I think a lot of us completely forget, once we become an entrepreneur, that we are still the same customer, that we still have to think from that point of view, that we have to go back, and many of us do not know. We are inquisitive. So we have to talk in our language. Like they say, in Rome, do as Romans do. And we have to do that, which personally, even, like, I really believe, is missing. A lot of words you don't get. A lot of words the industry gets. Great, we want to educate people, but people don't get. You have to educate them, which somehow is missing. So how do we do that? And that's a strategy which all of us would have to work on.
I think too that we have to unfortunately distill the message a bit sometimes, because we're all sex positive. So we could just, like, unleash the language and our opinions and our photos and everything quite comfortably. But for the most part, that the people that we're trying to educate or adopt as new customers are folks that aren't comfortable necessarily with all of that.
Yeah.
And so kind of like, we're going 0 to 60 really fast. And I feel like we have to slow down on the messaging a little bit, and maybe water it down a bit to make it a bit more palatable. Like, you know, on Instagram and Twitter is a bit more conducive to that. But on other, you know, Facebook and LinkedIn, there's a lot of opportunity to reach people there, but you have to be very careful on the things that you say, because people are afraid to be associated. You know, all of their professional contacts are on LinkedIn. And so if I go and like a post, well, other people see that. And so we have to be sort of conscious of how we're marketing on different platforms if we have any hope to sort of expand beyond ourselves.
Yeah, and also like, you know, like somehow, I don't know how well this will go with a lot of people, and it's just a personal opinion. A lot of platforms cater to a very large population, you know, and you know, the demographic is large, the age group is large. So for them, they also have to prioritize what works for them and what does not work for them. So then if we expect that, you know, if we will put like a very explicit picture on a platform which, you know, even kids are going to see, obviously they would, you know, they would ban you. So how do you actually make your explanation easy so that, you know, these platforms are not in a position to ban you? They are biased, no doubt about that. But all I'm trying to say is there are other platforms also available, but somehow we completely do not notice or we completely ignore, just because we realize that, oh my God, most of the people are there. But the people who are there, the platforms will not let you grow. So why not go for the opportunities which are already there? Because then it just makes you come into a position that you keep on harping on you know, the same fact again and again. How can we do it? How can we do it? How can we do it? And you cannot do anything. And then, like how it was started, you end up in an echo chamber, because that's the only place where you will be heard.
Yeah, and then we've got data sharing. You know, there's a lot of fantastic sex tech companies that are doing really great big things with lots of sales and lots of data. But for the smaller groups, I mean, I think we could all benefit from somehow sharing more data, because I think some people make some assumptions like, okay, I'm in Europe or I'm somewhere else and I want to market to a particular, you know, oh, I want to like my book. I want to market my book in India. How do I do that? How do I know that the people, what groups in India would I market to? I have no access to that data. And then I've heard people, I've got a company in another country and I want to market to the US because, well, they're the biggest market in the world. And that may be true, but how do I actually enter that market? Which you have to segment down. You can't appeal to everybody. So how do you, and where do you get that data from? I think I've seen one or two official places that produce sex tech reports, and they're in the thousands of dollars, and not everybody's in a position. Most of us are startups.
Yeah. And you know, like, it's really important, like, and this problem is not resolved, a lot of companies would not be able to sustain, because the ultimate goal is, how do you know, like, have you done your market research? And as I said, like, you know, it really takes a lot of effort, a lot of money to actually get that thing done. Personally, I do know at least six sex tech companies, which were started at the start of the COVID season, and now they're nowhere there. And the thing is, like, because, and the bottom line was, we just could not understand what the customers wanted. And we just had like a specific you know, like, amount of money with us. Obviously, we would not understand what people wanted, because we all are working just from our guts rather than from data. And data is important for any business. And I love, like, you know, when like Bobbi actually had an idea of like, why can't we just like club in all the companies together, and, you know, then everybody can share data with each other. And I think that's fabulous, because even like for Tickle.Life, our company is predominantly focused on North America. And the illusion, I call it illusion, with which we you know, started there was, oh, it's going to be easy peasy. We just have to follow, like, you know, North American, even from the language point of view, everybody will get it. It's going to be like, you know, 101, maybe 2 years, and we'll be there. But then you just start understanding, oh my God, there's a Bible Belt here also. Oh my God, you can't use these terms. Oh my God, you can't use these terms. So just imagine if there was a market research done, or if there were companies who, instead of telling you ABC, would actually give you data rather than just what has happened, or like, how we are discussing, it would have been super easy for our learning and for the company's learning as well, because we already have something to look up to. Right now, most of the time, we are just assuming. Guts are amazing to be an entrepreneur because that's how it works. But like, it takes time. So yeah, like, I love that idea, and if anybody wants to do it, would love to partner. We do get like a lot of data, and I think data is gold, and that's
Yeah, some kind of
that
open
what's makes
source thing, because like you think about the US from an outside point of view. I mean, just looking at the movies and the music and everything, you think, oh, wow, they are so open sexually. But there's a major hypocrisy going on there. There's states that are like, it's illegal to even own a sex toy. So, marketing to a state where it's illegal to buy sex toys, like, but you wouldn't know that unless you somehow, collected the data on that. But then I guess then we got the ugly parts, Shakun.
I think we've already been talking a lot of things which were not very nice.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure how many friends I'll have after this.
I mean, there is the support and the collaboration. So it's there sometimes. I feel like it's not there as much as it could be. I mean, we are, mostly capitalists here, capitalist socialist type of framework and paradigm. I mean, we all want to make money. But I feel like the support and the collaboration could be a little bit better.
Absolutely. Like, I've collaborated with both of you and it's been amazing, but it's also difficult. And it's actually difficult. And like, a lot of time, like, I just believe, like, when you're in those small groups, which are closed group, which are just for sex tech company, or which are for just sexual well-being company, and just because we are a discovery platform, so luckily we get to be both sides. We get to be in the educators groups, we get to be in like sex tech entrepreneurs groups. What we've seen is we all are not there. We are trying to be there for each other, but we're still not being there. So, like, for an example, somebody launches a new platform. They just do not need retweets. They just do not need messages. They need the initial customers so that they can become the platform better. But they're not getting that because they need to spend money. The initial customers should ideally come from the industry itself. So whether you're in the sexual well-being industry, or whether, like, I'm sorry, I'm just like not clubbing them together here, but just because, like, there's a different way of working, different requirements, they just do not. So most of us, like, again, we end up going to platforms, we end up spending a lot of time on platforms where we will be banned tomorrow. Whereas there are like people who are trying to create, platforms where we are just there for, like, we are just not doing something with it. We're just not, like, supporting in the way that we should really be supporting. It's really something mean that that sometimes, when I get to talk to like new entrepreneurs who are getting into sex tech, and especially if they've created some app or some platform, in my head, I usually bet, like, what will happen if they do not get any support. Will they sustain after 2 years? Will they sustain after, like, how long will they sustain? And most of the time it's really difficult to sustain, and then you just see, like, the model has changed completely, like, they're completely changing, and they're still struggling because they're not getting the inputs, the data that we were talking about. So even if data is not coming from the industry, initial data comes from your customers, and the customers only come when they get to know about you. And the outside customers will only know about you if you put some money in advertising. You don't have money because you spend that on the tech. So yeah, so I, like, when you said this, I'm 100% with you. Unless we don't work together, unless we just don't say that, hey, you know what, I've reached someplace, let me work with someone else and we'll make it work, things are not going to change. Keep on thing, we'll keep on harping on the same fact, we keep on, like, talking against different platforms, but we have the potential of reaching there. Actually, we have potential of reaching much more than, where major platforms are, because we're talking about sex and everybody has sex.
Everybody has sex.
So-
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's been a few times where I've had some, I guess, smaller or early stage sex tech companies reach out to me. Also, I work for a tech company and investments, and so there's an angle there too. But I do get feedback from them of I've emailed so and so and so and so, and they don't answer my email, and so I try my best to do introductions for everybody. And even when I was in the beginning, trying to make friends, not everybody. You don't always have to be like, okay, once we exchange an email, that means like we have to collaborate, we have to work on something together. But at least just kind of like a hi and we know each other. I think that, at the very initial basis, I think that would be helpful. I mean, I'm hearing rumblings of a sex tech association of some kind formulating. So, I mean, maybe that will solve the problem. But yeah, I think there's some space there. And then I do want to bring up something that we didn't talk about before, Shakun, but there is a dark side to tech, with people using technology for nefarious purposes, hacking and whatnot, but also, there's sexual violence and there's sex trafficking and things like that occurs. And I can tell you for nothing that there's a lot of concern about sex robots as well. I mean, that's the whole idea of the conference, Love and Sex with Robots, to sort of discuss out those types of things and try to mitigate issues. But I feel like the sex tech industry is somehow correlated with sex trafficking and sex violence and porn. I mean, they live that on a daily basis. Anyone who's doing really great, ethical porn and feminist porn are sort of lumped into all of that. And I feel like we need to be the strongest advocates against that, because this is something it's just, until those issues are solved, it's always going to be a problem for us.
Absolutely. And that's actually the reason for Sustain Foster. It's impacting everybody, but what are we fighting for? Are we fighting with the right organizations who are actually working against, finding solutions to trafficking? How many of us are working with Woodhull? How many of us are working with NCSF? So, there are organizations and we have to work with them. So we just have to completely forget seeing the life from a myopic view. We actually have to broaden our horizon, because the problem is just not 1, 2, 3. The problem is an amalgamation of a lot of things together. So absolutely there with you, and I hope everybody gets to agree with some things and not agree with some things, which is absolutely fine. Would love to hear. You have our email IDs. Drop in. Would be fun to have a fire chat, just 101 as well. And thank you.
Wow. Okay. This could go on for much longer. I think I started to pull back some really interesting layers. This is an absolutely perfect example from my perspective of what a dynamic and holistic conversation looks like about all the different threads and layers to the sex tech industry. And I thank you so much for your time and energy and insight. And again, we have Shakun Sethi with Tickle.Life.com.
Life.
And Bobbi Bidochka, who is the co-chair of Love, Sex, and Robots. And I want to thank our audience for joining us as well at the 3rd annual SexTech EU Conference 2021. And we will see each other again, I hope. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. Bye.